the Church of Domesticity in this beautiful church of San Cresci. So I've titled this exhibition, it's like an installation of the Church of Domesticity, and then the subtext is the Archeological Museum of Domesticity and the Everyday. So as of course the beautiful history here, but also looking at other archaeological museums, I've sort of in a way made this into an archaeological museum with relics, shrines and different artefacts referring of course to history, and then current life, and then my personal life. So as I have here an artist statement I wrote, which explains about, hopefully to a degree, about the exhibition. But if I just tell you a quick background of what I did, I applied for this wonderful residency, which has been fantastic. I've really, really enjoyed it. I have. It's been wonderful. Wonderful people, and all the other artists, and a beautiful place. I mean, how lovely. And I've always been attracted to history. I mean, it's a fantastic, the buildings, and also the beautiful environment, the country, the landscape. But I applied for this residency saying I'd look at particularly the Etruscan early works, and I know that a lot of this is Romanesque, but the early forms, which are very strong shapes, simple is maybe not the right word, but reduced essence of form. And I was going to make some small papier-mâché forms because I thought I could take some home and it's easy to transport, because usually at home I make ceramics and I paint. So I was thinking of things I could do here that would be small and not too difficult. And the other thing I said I'd do was go to Arezzo and look at Piero della Francesca and his beautiful frescoes, and the colours and the wonderful shapes, that purity of form. So they were the basic things, essential things, and then of course you get here and it all alters and shifts and changes. So I became really productive, and things got bigger and bigger instead of little and small. And I didn't want to, even though the landscape is so beautiful, I found it very liberating to do quite, for me, more contemporary, semi-conceptual approach and response to this environment. So instead of depicting it as a landscape or sitting out and sketching, I made these shapes which were like a response, and then created an installation. So I was really inspired by the artist who was just leaving when I arrived, Carol. And what's her surname? It's yeah, and she did these beautiful works of dancing and performing in the church, which she videoed, and we saw the videos in the church and also in the landscape. And I thought it was beautiful, very poetic and very contemporary, and a lovely conceptual way of expressing the landscape and her response. And that for me was a jumping off point, because I thought, well, this church is so beautiful, and usually churches are very, of course they're sacred, but it's not a place you can usually put art in, particularly art that isn't, you know, it's sort of rustic or non-precious. And I thought it was a wonderful opportunity. And also, so the setting, the environment influenced me, then the contemporary response. And then as I was working, I realised in art history and what you study, that whole Italian movement of art.
Arte povera.
Yeah, poverty art. So that it was very political in the 1960s and 70s. Not that I'm hugely political, but I really like the essence of the everyday object, reused, and just things found, nothing precious. Everything was just from the everyday. And so I was thinking of that, but then also because I have been a mother, mainly lately, with little children at the home in the domestic setting, and this was a 2 weeks sort of off, thanks to my lovely husband. who looked after them, I was like, quick, make, and I had so many ideas, one idea to another idea, and walking around the landscape, everything to me looked sculptural and poetic and amazing resonance, had a resonance to everything. And maybe because I'm Australian and I love Australia, it's another history with the Aboriginal culture and another landscape, but coming from a European background, I sometimes have that yearning for history and yearning for people who have made things. You walk here and it's Roman, it's ancient Rome, it's Etruscan, Romanesque, it's just layer in it. And I'm not an Aboriginal Australian, so I don't have a big resonance to the Aboriginal history, even though I appreciate it and it's interesting. But so for me this was very liberating. And even just looking at sticks in the landscape with stones, it all looked like crosses and relics and all had significance. So for me, all these little objects around in the studio, all the things artists have left behind, I thought of all these ideas. I can make my own shrines and relics out of very simple things. So maybe if we have a quick look around, I'll show you. So it's meant to be like a experience, like an installation. This space is an installation, it's architecture, it's an experience, and then I'm hoping to add my little way some other elements that you can jump off and have other ideas. So this is obviously the portico, the entrance. So this was like a veil or a curtain, which is in all the religious art. You look the curtain behind the Madonna on the icon, the curtains. Then walking around the streets, people have curtains in the doorways. To me that looked wonderfully symbolic, even though it's just a curtain because it's hot. but and then look, it could be better. This is only 2 weeks, but it'd be better darker. But I just stained it in this wash. Thinking of light ethereal colours in the frescoes. It could be darker, it's meant to be, again, messy. It's not perfect, it's not beautiful, it's not neat, it's just free and like this landscape. Yeah, it's just making things, it's not perfect, not worrying, and mirroring how I felt, a sense of freedom. So this is number 1. So I have a list, like a museum. And 1 is veil. 2, here. So these are drawings on paper of, when I first came here, I drew these beautiful simple shapes, the forms. And then Etruscan Museum, the vases. And then I thought, it's interesting, this is around the countryside. The cross is on this stone, the metal cross. So I was thinking these are supporting and holding. These are more supporting, like these, supporting the roof, supporting the beam, the structure. These are holding the cross, holding the food, or that could be the body, the woman holding the baby, holding life. So this is the whole idea of holding and supporting, but also like the church does, it holds and supports people, community, and I was thinking personally as a mother and a volunteer caring for children, you're holding and supporting, or holding and supporting the family. So it's a function of the church and a function of being domestic, stuck in the domestic. So then we enter in, so we're up to number 3.
Vai. Ciao Caterina.
Salve.
Oh, io non ce l'hai.
La conosci?
No.
Joshua